How's it going? I'm James and this is my Nerd Cave. Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Atari Lynx 2. So I bought this, as you see it here, off of eBay for parts or repair. I don't know much about it. All I know is that it was being sold for parts or repair. From what little bit I've looked at it, it doesn't look like anybody's done any work to it. So today we're going to get it on the bench and we're going to take a look and see if we can't see what's going on with it and see if we have any power. I'll show you guys how to do the safe boot test and we'll see if we can't get it working. So the first thing you want to do with an Atari Lynx is you want to check the power circuit. These things are known for certain failures. So we're going to do what's known as a safe boot test. What we're going to do is we're going to fire up the bench power supply. We're going to inject voltage here into the battery terminals and we're going to turn it on. I'll show you guys how I turn it on, and we're going to check to see if our regulation circuit, which on this guy it's D13. So there's a Zener diode that's used on this thing that essentially takes the 9 volt that the thing uses and shunts it down to a 5 volt. So your main CPUs on this thing run on 5 volt, and that diode is to keep from getting an overvoltage to the actual sensitive circuitry. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, I've got my meter where you guys can see it. So we're going to attach our leads to the battery terminals, like so. And now I have my bench power supply set for 5 volts. What we're going to do after applying voltage is we're going to short across TP17 right here, and then TP18 right here. Focus. So that's one of the ways that you can start this guy without anything. But before we do that, I haven't set this guy up to be able to turn on without a game inserted. So let's insert the game. Let's see if we can get it to turn on. So TP18 and 17. Okay, looks like we have 0.14 amps on my power supply. So we're drawing amperage, so the system should be turned on right now. As you can see, I'll show you on the battery terminals here. You can see on the meter, we're right at 5 volts. So what we're going to do is check D13, but we're going to use the shield here for the system ground. You don't want to use the battery terminal because this is a negative base switching. So what we're going to do is put our probe here on the shield, and we're going to test the voltage coming out of D13. We have 3.8. Okay, so to check that the diode is working correctly, what we're going to do is we're going to up the voltage a little bit. We're going to go from 5 volts to 6 volts, and then we're going to test the diode again, and we're going to see if there's any change in voltages. It might get up as high as about 4.8, but it shouldn't get any higher. So let's take it up to 6. Let's test it again. 4.1. Okay, so far so good. We're going to take it up to 7 volts. All right. 4.2, looking good. And now we're going to take it up to the full 9. 4.2 volts. It's a little low, but I would prefer low than high. So the voltages look good. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's working. There could be issues elsewhere. But what I want to do first is I want to go ahead and we're going to replace some components here. We're essentially going to rebuild the power circuit. What I have as well is a donor board here from a previous project. I already rebuilt this power circuit on here. So we're going to take them off of here and replace the old ones here. So let's go ahead and do that before we get much further into testing this guy. Let's start by removing D, 9, 10, and 11. So pay close attention to the orientation on these diodes. This black line here represents your ground. So we have this ground plane here and this one here. So make sure that when you replace these that you get the orientation of your ground correct. Let's clean up our pads. Start with D11. D9. And D10. Next, let's replace D12. Let's use a little hot air to take off U6. Go ahead and remove D13. All right, let's remove Q7, Q8, and R74. Okay, that's all the components we need to change for now until we test this thing again. assuming that we have everything in the right orientation. Right. So one more time. Let's hook it up to the bench power supply and test our voltages again. Okay, we have 0.11 amp draw. So we know the system's on. Let's go to shield ground and check the diode. Oh, help if we're in the right mode. 4.2. Okay. So let's do a little quick test here while we have it hooked up. So we have a game in. So let's plug in a speaker real quick and see if we're getting any audio. Oh. So we know the game is booting. That's a good sign. All right. Turn him off for a moment. So I've got a screen. This is actually from the donor. So let's plug it in. And try booting it up again and see what happens. Bench power on. Got 0.2 amp draw. Plug our speaker back in. Let's see what we got. I see a backlight. Oh, check it out, guys. Cool. All right, so we have a working Atari Lynx 2. To be honest, I'm pretty sure this guy might have already been working. It's a good idea to change those circuits out anyway, but I get the feeling like he might have booted up without changing everything out. But those are known components to fail, and it's good if you have the means to change them out anyway. All right, so I have a shell and buttons from the donor that you saw here. So we know this one's fully working. This one, still a donor. So what I'm going to do is get the old shell cleaned up that the other board came out of and get him put back together. And then we'll do some testing and see if we have a fully working Atari Lynx. Okay, I think we're ready to pop some batteries in and give it a test. Make sure everything is working. Cool. All right. Success. Okay. So, not sure if it was already working. Maybe it was just misdiagnosed. I'm not sure why it was labeled the way it was. Maybe it wouldn't power on. Maybe U6 was going bad. Perhaps it was something, I don't know. We have a working Atari Lynx 2. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.